was invited by the colleagues I was sitting next to during lunch to partake in the dessert. And then I gave them a flimsy excuse why I didn't want to eat the dessert. The reason why I didn't want to eat the dessert is that I heard from a reporter once who said they don't interview people during lunch or after they've eaten, because the responses to the questions just vary with the variation of glucose in the blood soon after eating. So I tried not to have dessert so that my pitch is not changing, my focus is not changing, and then you may think I'm emphasizing one part of the presentation more than the other. Let me start by observing all protocol. I am in the World Bank in the Pretoria office under a global practice that specializes in water. And in there, I work for a very specific trust fund that is called the 2030 Water Resources Group. We are not sort of the main operations of the bank. We are a unit that is allowed to do all sorts of experiments to try new things. And we do this in various parts of the world, including here in South Africa. So in South Africa, we support an outfit that is sitting in Johannesburg called the Strategic Water Partners Network, that is made up of all these organizations and co-chaired by the Department of Water and Sanitation. And what we're about mainly is promoting multi-stakeholder partnerships that drive the SDGs, and in my case, SDG 6 on water. And the whole idea is there are a whole range of collaborations that are required, government to government, government to civil society, different spheres of government, and also private sector to make things work. As I give my talk and share some perspectives, I may refer to some of the work that we've supported our partners here. So I'm basically here because I think that the technical people that are involved in infrastructure, in this case water, where I'm going to focus, normally have these conversations that are sometimes in parallel to local economic development, in parallel to what happens with finance. But for them to drive this agenda that they're thinking about, it's important that I think a common vision is created. And out of some of the exchange that I've had with Emmanuel, I would like to think that this is maybe a start of trying to converge that vision around how infrastructure is not just a piece of concrete, but how it can be thought of a little bit more broadly in the context of, say, capital planning, or in the context of local economic development. If we look at water in South Africa, there are many things we could say about it, but I would like to use a few statistics to characterize the challenge. If you look at the National Water and Sanitation Master Plan that has been developed by the Department of Water and Sanitation, you will see these numbers here. That over a period of 10 years, close to 900 billion is required for infrastructure. That when you combine all the available funding from grants, loans, and revenue sources, you get about 566 billion, which leaves a funding gap of 333 billion of needs versus the amount of money that is available. That is a telling number. A couple of other telling numbers are that there are still 14 million people in the country that don't have access to what is described as a safe sanitation. And in terms of water supply, you will see that although the figures say that water supply is close to universal, almost everybody now has access to water. Stats SA data shows that reliability of that water supply is slowly decreasing. And so you will see this figure of 64% of reliable supply commonly quoted. I guess this kind of gives the context of, the need for infrastructure and the finance that is associated with that. If you look into something that they're calling the water infrastructure investment framework, you will see that an attempt to try and estimate what are the current assets that are held in terms of water in the different provinces in South Africa lands you on this figure of 1.36, 1.3, just above 1.35 trillion, worth of assets, right? So I was very interested when I saw Jacob sort of present his interesting presentation in the morning, because this is very close to the revenue collection by SARS. So it's a really huge infrastructure network that we already currently have on the ground. Just to show you how they arrived at these figures, I mean, they're first order estimations, but I think they're quite decent. So first, all the pipelines were mapped, municipal bulk pipelines, water board bulk pipelines were mapped around the country. All the pump stations were mapped, and the conditions assessed, and an estimation done of what that infrastructure cost. This was also done for dams, both sort of nationally owned dams and municipal dams, as well as for boreholes, reservoirs, and then of course water treatment work. So quite a bit of work went into this, even though it says first order estimations. It's not stuff that's actionable at a smaller scale, but it gives a very good national picture of what the infrastructure network looks like and what the funding gaps are. So here, I'll ask you maybe not to look too much into these details as we go down here, but maybe the numbers right at the bottom. And those are those numbers that I started off with, right? Which is this huge number here of 900 billion required for us to achieve our targets for water supply and sanitation. But also what's interesting here at the bottom is how much of that is required for rehabilitation, 385 billion, and how much of that is required for new infrastructure, and the similarities there. And I'm going to be getting to that point, which is about the condition of the currently existing assets. I have an interesting story for you on this one. Once in a regional conference on Southern Africa to do with water, a master student, I think he was from Mozambique, presented some work that he had been doing in his country, and then one of his conclusions, these young 20s, they just speak without, unlike me, who has been told some things to say and not to say, they just say it as they see it. Then he said in that conference, the problem is that us Africans don't have a culture of maintenance. And the room was not happy with him. And then another lady from the region said, no, it's the men who don't have a culture of maintenance. Some years later, there was a man who had been very angry with that boy in the conference who said, I don't know if maybe that boy was right. I don't know if he was right, but I'm just saying, this is from fellow regional citizens, if you like. We can again break it down in a different way. By the way, in looking at the gap, this so-called gap that I've presented and started off with, there was an estimation done of all the grants that fund this infrastructure. Then there was an estimation done of all the revenue, say for municipalities, and then all the loans that are already available. And then subtracting that, from the infrastructure required is how then this gap was arrived at. It's a huge, I think, a shortfall, and it's a huge amount of money, this so-called gap. And so the question is, where is it going to come from? There was a part of me, as I listened in the morning, on discussions to do with the fact that transfers to local government or to municipalities are maybe not at the level that they should be. A part of me said, oh, maybe that's one part of the equation. There's another part of the equation, I think, which I'll come to, which is efficiencies. But I still do think that even after you solve for that, there's really a need for us to start thinking about how that financing gap for this infrastructure is going to be covered. So maybe let's drill down a little bit for the water sector into some pertinent matters. I was here in Durban in 2016 for something called the Water Institute for Southern Africa Conference. Lots of water sector officials come here once every 2 years, discuss science, everything to do with water, amongst other things. And this was the Mercury on the last day as we left. I hope I can see what date it was. May 18th. So why I found this interesting was that this headline beat the other, the lower one here, which is that EFF was disrupting Parliament. But this headline beat that one. And this is what is going into the minds of the residents that were reading this. And basically this is non-revenue water in municipal systems. And that concept we all understand, of course. If you're not producing your own water, it's the water you've purchased from your bulk supplier. It's currently sits at 42% nationally, the average, for which there will be no revenue recouped. And if you break down that 42% into its components, I would say about 35% maybe is physical losses, leaks, bursts, etc. Maybe about 5% is due to billing problems, and another 6% due to things such as theft. Yeah? And then now we've got this 42% of water for which there is no revenue. So this is I think pretty decent data. You may or may not like the Department of Water and Sanitation, how they do these audits, but it could not be lower than, if they say 42%, you know it could not be lower than, let's say, 38%. And those are really, really high figures. And what we know now is that it's currently at 9.9 billion rands per year. So another drill down point is wastewater treatment plants. The last audit of wastewater treatment plants showed that about 30% are in a critical state. And critical state is kind of a euphemism. It means that they're close to dysfunctional status. And then you combine them with poor, that's just a little bit over half. But we have to be very careful in talking about these things and how we present this picture. I'm hoping that we can have a discussion that is forward-looking, that talks to what is the opportunity in these challenges that we have to look at. Right? So I asked the question, shall we look at the glass as being half full or half empty? Or if you like, half clean or dirty? And in a second or two, I will conclude on that. First of all, on the non-revenue water, we now know from experience. For example, I'll leave this slide with you for those that are interested. In Emfuleni in 2005, they did a project where they got a contractor to bring in the finance. They said, if we're going to take a risk together, you say you can give us a solution to this problem. And so if we're taking the risk together, you have to bring in some of your own finance, right? And then you say you're going to do this work, reduce this non-revenue water for us, we gain some revenue, and you get paid from saving us some money. We share what you save us, right? And you bring in the capital. So they trialed this at a small scale, it worked. The project also created, I think, about 350 jobs as it did that. Because basically reducing water losses, you can simplify it to three things. Number one, you can reduce the pressure in the system. That's a very specialized piece of work. You can go looking for leaks and then patch them, and then sometimes you can also do things at property scale. It's only the pressure management that is super specialized. In fact, if you are very deliberate about it, you can create jobs in the semi-specialized and the non-specialized aspects of the work. But I think what we see is it's usually, oh, by the way, we then created jobs. It's never a, how do we create jobs as being one of the central questions in addressing the problem. In conceptualizing the project, it should be a project that reduces water losses, improves municipal revenue, and creates jobs. Those things should be combined from the start. On the wastewater treatment infrastructure, I can quote two examples. One is from here, from eThekwini Water and Sanitation in 2000. They had a wastewater treatment plant for which there was a pipe going to the sea, which is normal. But then they found out that there was a petrochemical refinery and a SAPI paper facility that were able to buy that wastewater if it was treated to a certain quality, right? And then they did all this structuring for a special purpose vehicle to go and seek for finance, do this project, sell the water to these industries. And then, now they have revenue from this water that was going out to sea. Local firms also got some parts of the contract. And for me here, what's critical is to see some of this work as work that empowers local firms, so that for any other work that comes that is specialized or semi-specialized, they improve their capacity to partner with those international firms. It's a large firm that had to do this, a French firm, it's Veolia, so this is public knowledge. And again, similar to this issue of water losses, what I see as the opportunity here is that this idea that we can get local firms to partner with international firms should not be, by the way, when you start writing the case study, it would be a very deliberate move to say these challenges, in thinking through how to solve them, we can think about them economically, we can think about them financially, but we can also think about how, in doing that, we're actually fulfilling some of the local economic development objectives. Thirdly, I think there are now new forms of financing and procurement for some of these problems. The Mfuleni example that I gave, they did something called a performance-based contract. So you are paid partly based on the benefit that you've given to us, not an input-based contract. I will not punt public-private partnership per se. It should only be done if you think that they're necessary, but that's also one potential way to go. But everything from management contracts all the way up to full-blown PPPs, there are various ways in which now you can procure these things, share risk with the private sector, and in some cases get the private sector to bring in the finance. That outfit that I talked about that we support, called the Strategic Water Partners Network, they have facilitated a project in Polokwane where Anglo-American, I think, and South African breweries have brought some funds together to support the municipality and try to create some kind of a financing mechanism for water loss projects. So one can think of, can you find a vehicle maybe that can tap into all these different financing sources, do the work, create some local employment. It may be that covers 15% of the scope of work, but given that it can create jobs, maybe that is something worth thinking about. But I also think that making this case has to be made within the context of capital planning, and unfortunately I think us from the technical side, that's something that we haven't been doing too well. And by the way, this problem of non-revenue water, one of the major drivers is there isn't such great communication sometimes between technical departments and finance departments. And that drives the problem to continue to grow. So my concluding thoughts on whether the glass is half full or half empty is a story from once I was studying in Cape Town on one Sunday. I said, I think I need some spiritual, as the books were getting tough, advice. By the way, I tried to look for a church. I just went online to look for a church. And the interesting thing is when you look for churches to see what time do they have mass, actually the first things that pop up these days, and I urge you to do it, is the merchandise that churches sell. To find the time for mass is actually somewhere in the background. It's buy this, buy that, buy that. I eventually did find a church, and the pastor had an interesting topic he was discussing, and he said, once a boy came with a bird behind his hands like this. Then he said, Pastor, I bet you, if you answer my question right, I give you money. If it's wrong, you give me money. Is this bird alive or dead? And then the pastor realized, if the bird is alive, and I say it's dead, I'll lose. If the bird is dead, if I say the bird is dead, but it's alive, the boy is actually going to kill it. Because it's got time. This pastor said, I don't want this boy to kill this bird. So he said, the answer is in your hands. I think that whether the glass is half full or empty, half clean or dirty, the answer is in our hands. Thank you.